Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the delay. I was kind of busy and stuff. But today we're gonna go over something a little bit different. The Bearman big bore Derringer. So this is chambered in 38 special. I'm just gonna go over the specs briefly. So it's got a 2.5-inch barrel, and seeing as how the cartridge takes up most of that barrel, let's say there's probably about 1.5 inches or so of usable barrel. It's about 4.6 inches overall length. I'm told that's average. I wouldn't know. It weighs in about 14 ounces empty. It's got an alloy frame, plastic synthetic grips, fixed sights, if that's what you want to call that. Yeah, that's pretty much what you get for a sight right there. 2-round capacity as shown, and has the satin Cerakote finish, which feels cheap but was well done, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a brief breakdown for the specs of it. If you don't know what a Derringer is, it's typically a break action 1 or 2 shot small frame gun that typically comes in single action only. If you don't know, that means you have to pull this hammer back manually each time you want to fire, otherwise no go. So for this, I decided to torture myself for you guys and run 500 rounds through this little delight. After about the first box, I found myself questioning my life decisions about why I chose to do that. I did have footage running this a bunch, and I had edited it, and then when I went to plug it into this video to like play down here in a little window, found out it was corrupted, so that sucks. So, as you can imagine, the small grip area on this thing, I mean, look, you can get maybe I can maybe get 2 fingers on this thing. So the small grip area makes it pretty unpleasant to shoot despite the easy shooting 38 special cartridge. I found myself adopting a very unorthodox method of holding it, where I would pretty much just get as much hand on it as I could, and I would wrap my thumb over on top to get a little more pressure downwards on it. The barrel quickly heated up while shooting it, which isn't a surprise since there's not much to it. Although I can't really imagine somebody shooting this as much as I did in one sitting. The sights, as I had mentioned before, are more of a cosmetic feature, if anything. It's kind of just a little groove right here in the back and a little front sight post. Although seeing as that they are fixed sights, they are relatively on point. After about 150 rounds, which is, again, like I said, more than I can imagine most people would run through it in one session, the trigger guard quickly became increasingly loose and would wobble around while manipulating it. I was able to go through and tighten it, which actually you have to pop the barrel back and go down here to get access to these little Allen heads right here. Regarding accuracy, I can't give a full testament to it, as I felt like I was fighting to keep my hands on it just because of how small it is most of the time. I can't blame the accuracy on the firearm itself, and more directed at me. However, at about 12 yards, I was able to get about a 3.5-inch group, which is definitely nothing to write home about, but it's satisfactory given that you're working with like 1.5 inches of like rifling. The trigger feels stiff and has a really odd breaking point. I can say this is definitely the worst single action trigger I've ever touched with in general. So we're gonna dry fire it, even though we're not supposed to, but we'll just pop it up here. So as you can kind of see, there's just a little bit of it's stiff. It is stiff. Like it, you can tell it just gives barely, and then it just breaks right there. But like there's 2 walls, but they're very close together. and it's like one wall's right there, and then just goes. It's, for a single action trigger, absolutely terrible. After 500 rounds, I really found myself hating this thing, but I feel like that could honestly be said about doing most things 500 times. I bet at this point you're wondering if I have anything positive to say about it, so I'm going to tackle that from a practical standpoint in regards to the benefits of carrying this thing. It's small, check. Easy to conceal, check. It's not super heavy. I wouldn't say it's light either at 14 ounces, given the size of this thing. There's definitely subcompact single stacks that definitely weigh as much as this thing does unloaded. But if you do have a lack of options to conceal a firearm on your body, I bet you would be able to find a way to have this readily accessible on you somehow. It's better than a pointy stick or a rock. I started stashing this in a hidden lockbox in my car so I can always at least have something on hand if I'm in a rush. And at sub $150, if some dirtbag decided to smash out my windows and break open the lockbox and take this thing, I'd probably be more upset about my window than this thing being gone, given that it was so relatively cheap. So I'd consider that a plus. It's in a time-proven caliber. 38 special is pretty nice. And given that it's a rimmed cartridge, the little extractor that makes it easier to reload over the 9mm options where there isn't one, you usually gotta use a push rod. My final opinion on this, it's neat to have around. When I take it to the range, most people want to fire it at least once because of the novelty of it. It's iconic looking, and in some ways it is a beautiful callback to an older firearm design, which I enjoy. I would not choose to carry this and defend myself with it, but given the options between this and nothing, I would gladly take this 1,000 times over. I can see and understand how there's like a little niche for someone who would choose this, but not something else. So this kind of, so after going that, let's kind of just briefly look at it. It's, it's kind of nice, if you want to break. So this is the little lever here to crack it open. And then when there's a cartridge in it, there's this to push it out. Now, I will address that after shooting it a lot. The brass expansion in the chamber did get a little bit more, so this quickly became more of me having to just bang it against the edge of a table to get the stack to push the cartridges out. But I don't imagine somebody going and shooting this several hundred times in a session regularly. It's more of a, I need something now and this is all I have, so this is what I'm going to use. The safety, you can only engage it when the hammer is back, which is really annoying. So the safety's on now, and if I want to disengage it, can't with the hammer forward. You guys have to have the hammer all the way back, which is almost unappealing on given something so small, but it's sturdy, it's heavy. So that's pretty much a brief rundown of it. It is what it is. I think it's more of a cool thing just to have in the collection than anything else. At the price point, you might as well go get 1 or 2, maybe even 3 in the calibers of your choice, seeing as how they make one in damn near almost every pistol caliber, or at least common pistol caliber. They have a 9mm version, 38 special. I do believe there's a 357 meg rated one of these. That sounds terrible to shoot. I think there's even a 380 as well, which is kind of cool. So, this is a brief little breakdown. Anyways, as always, thanks for checking in. If you haven't noticed, we do have a merch link in the description below, as well as a link to the Patreon for those that want to help with the ammo cost for doing these videos. If you don't already, check out the Facebook page. We got spicy memes, and you can usually see what's going on between videos there. And anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for being patient.